This phone's on the charger, by the way.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and Nigel is with me today to review the last of the pre-season games, two back-to-back games, one at Old Trafford and one in Dublin, featuring two different teams. United obviously winning against Lens at Old Trafford and drawing one each against Bilbao and Dublin. And let's be honest, it was a dreadful game. Um, so first of all, we'll talk about the game in Dublin, and then we'll review yesterday's game, which is much more positive. So first of all, how's it going, Nigel?
Not too bad, Kyle. Nice to be back.
Yeah, and not be too long now until the Premier League is back as well. So before we discuss that, we'll get into the meat of these friendlies. So today, um, Bilbao took the lead, typically through a Harry Maguire mistake. It really is. It's tough to watch now because Maguire seems to make a mistake in every game now he plays. He's shot to pieces. It's like death by a thousand cuts, and he needs to put out of his misery as soon as possible. Um, but Bilbao received a deserved red card for a cynical foul on Hannibal Mabry when he was clean through. And then it was just attack against defence from that point onwards. United constantly getting balls into the box. And with the last kick of the game, eventually United scored through Pellistri. Magnificent finish. Um, Very impressed. And Maguire, of all people, getting the flick on the assist for the goal. So, what did you make of that dreadful game then, Nigel?
Oh, as you say, Kyle, it was very, very poor. Now, it was a very mixed up 11, wasn't it? When you consider that the first 11, probably as you've called it, it'll probably pick itself on Monday week now against Wolves. But this was last chance saloon for a few players to. The manager said before the match today in Dublin that he had maybe two positions in the first 11 he wasn't sure about. I'm sure he's fairly certain now. People on the outskirts of the squad that were really struggling continue to struggle. You talked about Maguire's indiscipline. Very similar to what Dallo did when he gave the goal away when he passed the ball. They don't seem to concentrate hard enough. And at the top level, you can't do that. So it's another nail in the coffin for Harry Maguire. But whether he just sits in the squad and takes his money this season and waits to January or next July, August to leave, the club's open for debate. But on the positive side, I thought Fernandez did well at left back. The crowd loved his runs up the left hand side. Um, I don't know what the situation. Malaciel's injured. I don't know what his injury is or how long he's out for, but Fernandez shouldn't be loaned out at this point in time. I think he's good enough just to fill in for Shaw should anything happen to Shaw. Um, Palestri did very, very well. A rare 90 minutes for him, and as you say, got a good goal. Beautiful technique to control that ball and keep it down to tuck it in the corner. And Hannibal came on for Donny at half time in a very good 45 minutes. He's a strong guy. He's built up now since his period at Birmingham City, so he looks like he could be a fairly good squad player if required, and he certainly deserves to stay at the club. What do you think?
Yeah, on the basis of what we seen in pre-season, I think Hannibal Mabry and Facundo Pellistri should be kept on as part of the 25-man Premier League squad this season. And Pellistri um, impressed me last season in the few minutes that he got. Even in a game that I was at against Fulham, he came on. He only had 10 minutes, and he was magnificent in that 10 minutes. He's so direct. He runs from his own half, beats a few people, and all of a sudden we're getting a shot in on goal, just like that. So and he excites the crowd. So in many ways, he's very much like Garnacho in that respect. So And Mabry is just a physical specimen. He loves to get stuck in. He presses very high. He wins the ball high up the pitch, like we've seen today with the sent off. You get on the end of a chance. Mabry today, he was close, but didn't quite get it on target. Um, yeah, so he looks like a player. Certainly impressed more than Van der Beek. And if I know it's very rare that Bruno comes out of the team, but when he does, maybe could be someone to deputise for him. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think both players should be kept on and not loaned out this year.
Yeah, the other thing, Kyle, was uh, Jadon Sancho's early chance. I mean, a game of that slow pace in a pre-season friendly, that was a 1-to-1. He never looked confident at all, never, and then cut into his left foot side for one, and it was like a pass back to the goalkeeper. It was an amazing miss from a player of his quality. I can't understand what has happened to the guy when he gets anywhere near the goal. Do you?
Um, yeah, it's very very strange. Um, we talking about Jadon Sancho, yeah.
Yeah, Jadon
Who are we talking
Sancho
about
when
again?
he
Yeah.
Sancho early on in this game, in about the third or fourth minute, he was in 1-on-1, and he instead of pressing on and burning it was right foot, then he cut inside and had this mealy mouth pass back to the keeper.
Yeah, he was very hesitant. He wasn't sure what he was going to do, and then in the end, it was a very soft attempt, easily saved by the keeper's right foot. Either he should have
Yeah,
squared it to someone, or he should have went round the keeper and buried it. It wasn't. Uh, it wasn't the finish of someone who's confident. And it's frustrating because you seen him nutmeg someone on the halfway line and start an attack by doing that. So he has his moments in games, but then his final ball or his finishing can frustrate you at times. Um, like his finish against Arsenal was wonderful. I don't know why we don't see more of that. So it's again he leaves us. He's an enigma. He leaves us scratching our heads. We can see he's got ability, but time and time again he just frustrates, doesn't he?
he does absolutely. I mean, he doesn't look to have. When you look how good at how the front three was the other day. I mean, with Garnacho, Rashford filling in until Rasmus arrives, and Anthony on the other side. You see? I can't see a permanent place for Jadon Sancho. He'll always be in the 25, but I don't see at any stage that he'll be a first team player at United because he certainly won't be playing the midfield. The midfield's already booked up, so I don't know where he goes.
Yeah, that's probably one of the issues is that he hasn't held down a position. He's been moved around from the right to left to the center, false nine and everything, and he doesn't really hold a position in the team. So he looks like he's just going to be a backup utility man for the foreseeable future, unless he just hits a massive purple patch of form and forces his way into the team, which doesn't seem likely at the moment. So looking like he's not going to leave. So he's going to be a squad player for the forthcoming season. So we're always hoping that we can see the the Dortmund Sancho arrive at Old Trafford at some stage, but we've been waiting 2 years now. So
Yeah.
I'm not getting my hopes up on that one. Um, so Johnny Evans came on today. He nearly scored as well, would you believe? And he actually scored in this stadium in the first ever soccer match in this stadium. Was United 7, League of Ireland 11 1 in 2010, and here he is still playing for
Okay.
United 13 years later. Apparently, Ji Sung Park got the first ever soccer goal in that stadium at the Aviva. Um, but there's 50,000 fans there today, and they were very very angry that they paid whatever it was for a ticket there. I'm sure it was expensive as it always is in Dublin, and what they got to see was the United reserve team. They knew it was coming based on the lineup yesterday at Old Trafford. This is why you know I'm aware of. I know people who went to this game. I've been told that friends of friends have went to this game, but this is why I didn't entertain it because I kind of figured that one of these two games over the weekend was going to feature a reserve team, and it could possibly be the Dublin game. So that's why I just held off. And decided to go to Old Trafford in September instead.
Yeah, well,
So
you
yeah,
made the right decision. No doubt about that. You made the right decision because there were eight. We watched all eight games in in the preseason, and that's the one that was really just it just dragged along. It was more like fulfilling a fixture. Nobody had to get injured. The season starts next Monday night, and the fans weren't a consideration today. And I agree with you that it's. I mean, you pay your money. You want to see some sort of a game. Those Irish fans spend a fortune every season going over from Dublin to Old Trafford, and they deserve a bit more than that. But I mean, the sports now, it's a business, isn't it? Really, you could see they want the money, but they don't turn up with a full side. You know.
I think the reason why Ten Hag insisted on having this friendly is so the Fringe players could get miles in their legs ahead of the new season. But nobody really impressed today enough to get into the 11 next week against Wolves. The only like we'll talk about the Lons game in a second, but I think the only player who started today who has a chance of starting against Wolves is Wan Bissaka, in my opinion. How do you see it, Nigel?
Yeah, that's definitely the crucial part of the back four that isn't fulfilled yet. I think that Dallo started against Lens because of the quality of the goal he scored against Munich or Borussia Dortmund. It really was a good goal, and he's very good in that area. But defensively, he's still remarkably weak. And as talked about, discipline and concentration in the back four. If you're wearing a defensive jersey, you have to defend first at the highest level. You know, you can score the odd goal and contribute with assists the odd game, but you're paid to defend. And I don't think he reads the game terribly well at the back on the right hand side. I didn't think Wan-Bissaka was good today at all, to be fair. So I agree with your call. I think that Dallo will start on Monday against Wolves.
Uh, that's interesting. Now, I'm like much of last season. I'm not really sure which one he's going to play. To be honest with you, now I thought Wan Bissaka probably had the better of the preseason overall between the two of them. Um, Dallo made we'll come on to this game now. Dallo had a horrendous mistake yesterday, leaving Onana badly exposed by looking up, passing the ball in the direction of Varane, and not even looking where he's playing the ball. And then Onana was lobbed with a fantastic effort from the Lons player. Um, so it was an opportunity for Wan-Bissaka to remind the manager that I'm the number one right back. I'm not sure he did that today. I think he was decent whenever we Bilbao went down to 10 men. He was allowed to express himself a bit more. He was getting some nice balls into the middle. I think he may have played the ball into Hannibal when he had that chance. Um, see
Good
a few
time.
more balls he played into the middle, but yeah, it's very much 50-50 between them. I think definitely Wan-Bissaka has to play if we're coming up against a better team because Dallo was being skint time and time again yesterday as well by the winger out in that
Mhm.
left hand side, and you
Yeah.
cannot trust Dallo defensively. So Wan-Bissaka probably gets my vote to be honest, but I'm not sure. Maybe a home fixture against Wolves, you might go with Dallo, but yeah, Wan-Bissaka would be my preference.
Yeah, well, Wan-Bissaka would be my first choice, but I'm reading what how the manager looked at both those games, and I have a feeling that it will be Dallo. But we'll wait and see what the call is. As you say, it's too close to call. They both have deficiencies in different areas, but they're certainly not the full article to be a long term right back at Old Trafford. So with the resources the way we are, we'll just have to get through this season with the two of them, and whoever the judgment calls made by Ten Hag, I'll go with that. But of the two players, I prefer Wan-Bissaka over Dallo. But in from what I've seen over a thing, I have a notion that Ten Hag will stick with Dallo. Could well be wrong. Wait and see.
Yeah, it's very hard to call. Yesterday was positive overall. Missed about four chances in the first half, but eventually we found the back of the net three times in the second half. Lovely ball by Anthony and playing Rashford, who scored with a deflected effort. And then Anthony scored himself after a wonderful move involving Rashford and Garnacho. Lovely touch by Rashford. And Garnacho, who was direct all afternoon, causing lots of problems for the fullback. Very, very lively performance by Garnacho. Not only does he have the ability, but he wants it badly. He's got the hunger to become a first teamer at United and succeed. Um, Anthony then with a poor first touch, but he made up for it with the dink over the goalkeeper. And then a goal from set piece, another set piece from Shaw, which was finished off by Casemiro, albeit a bit lucky this time, with Rashford getting the header, which head off Casemiro, who knew nothing about it. And that's why he looked a bit sheepish as the ball went into the net. He was almost apologetic. He's almost
Yeah.
apologetic about it. So good to see United win a preseason game. It's been a while, and good to see us get amongst the goals. Rasmus Højlund was introduced to the crowd before the game, but he's not up to speed with his fitness because he's had a knock during preseason. He's back training right now, we've been told, but he won't be match fit for a couple of weeks. So I'm anticipating against Wolves he will go with that front three that started against Lens. Garnacho on the left, Rashford down the middle, and Anthony on the right. Is that how you see it, Nigel?
Yeah, I see it like that too. It's very exciting front three. As you say, the moment of the match was the interaction between Rashford, that superb ball to Garnacho. And once Garnacho starts at pace, Premier League defenders will hate that. You can't legislate for pace like that. And if the quality of the ball from Rashford is as good as that. But what Garnacho seems to have improved upon since last season is looking up to find the player for the final ball. He was always in control, even travelling at great speed. He seemed to know when to release it, and it was a beautiful move. Let's see many more like that, Kyle. That was wonderful to watch. Vintage United when they're playing at pace.
Yeah, I think we might see that plenty of times this season. Hopefully we can do it against Wolves, but knowing Wolves the way I do, like they aren't an attacking team the way Lawns are. They're going to sit deep. They're going to make it very, very difficult. So we might not see those types of counter-attacking goals. We're going to have to penetrate them with a bit of guile, and as you always refer to, get in behind them. So Garnacho might have to beat two or three players to get the ball into the middle. But it could be a frustrating night next Monday. I think it'll be very difficult to break down, but so we'll have to take our chances when they come. We have to be ruthless. We have seen a lot of the same old problems in preseason as we did last season, with their not taking our chances, not scoring as many goals as we should. Um, yeah, I know there's a new striker coming in, but he's young. We're paying for potential. Really, he's not the finished article. We have to be patient with him. So he will contribute with goals, but other players need to step it up now. Rashford got 30. Like he needs to match that again this season. Anthony needs to increase his output in terms of goals. And hopefully Garnacho, this will be his breakout season, and he will get something like um, 10 to 15 goals. So, and Bruno is always contributing. So if he could get more, that would be brilliant as well. So we need to finish our chances. Otherwise, we're just not going to get anywhere near winning the Premier League.
Yeah, well, goals win matches, but the thing is that this is a big season for Anthony. I think on the right hand side, I would imagine that if he becomes stale and becomes predictable, that you now have the option of Palestri coming on in the second half. I would say 65, 70 minutes, and see if he can beat his fullback and get the crosses in to the centre forward. But they were buzzing yesterday. Obviously, new season and. They know the managers changing the old guard, bringing in new players, and I think they're up for the fight. I expect Wolves, as you say, to be fairly defensive, but their best player in an attacking mode has gone to the Emirates, so I don't see them having a lot to show up front. So it's up to us to get behind them, get the crosses in, score the goals. If we could score one or two goals very early, I think the heads will go down from Wolves. and we could win that match convincingly. But as you say, the old problem is the one we have currently until the new centre forward starts to score is getting the ball in the net.
Yeah, and Mason Mount has caught the disease as well. We've seen from that full pullback by Garnacho, Mason Mount totally misheaded it when he really should have buried that chance. So um, it's important for him also to get his first goal as soon as possible, because we know that the haters, the media will start getting on his back. The same as the way they are with Onana already. On Mount, yesterday it was only a friendly that which we won on Talk Sport are talking about the new goalkeeper was lobbed, Mount missed from 6 yards out. It's just the usual garbage, isn't it?
It is absolute nonsense. I think the Mason amount he worked very very hard yesterday and put himself about. He okay miss, but he got in a position to score from midfield, which we haven't always been doing. I mean, okay, anybody can miss on a given day, but you don't let your head go down. You get the next one's the way to look at it. I have every confidence that he'll prove to be good value as the season. And once he starts interacting with Bruno and things are happening, Casemiro's winning the ball and letting them go forward and set things up. Let's be positive about it. I have every confidence that's going to work. Let the media speculate and say what they want. The fans want the entertainment, and it looks to me on the basis of the midfield three and what will be the front three that we're going to entertain and score this season. So I'm fairly positive. Can't wait till Monday night, to be honest.
Yeah, last season Chelsea were a mess, and Mason Mount suffered as a result of that. Um, he might be just lacking a wee bit of confidence that he had before. But I think as soon as he scores his first goal for United, the floodgates are probably open, and we might see the old Mason Mount that was getting 10 goals and 10 assists a season. Well, I'm hoping so anyway, and I believe that he just needs to find the back of the net, and then his confidence will increase from there, and we'll see the best of him. So yeah, that 11 yesterday, what was it? Onana, Dallo, Varane, Licha, Shaw, Casemiro, Mount, Fernandez, um, Rashford, Garnacho, and Anthony. I would expect to see 10 of those start against Wolves. Maybe it'll be the exact same team. What that wouldn't surprise me either. Um, and yeah, if they, like you say, if they get a couple of early goals, the floodgates get open. But I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves frustrate us. But as long as we get the points, that's the most important thing. I don't care if we win 4-0 or 1-0, as long as we get off to a winning start, unlike last season, which was an absolute disaster. Um, but watching United against Lens filled me full of confidence. The silky football, with the way they were creating chances at will against a team who only finished a point behind PSG last season, who we could be playing again in the Champions League group stages, and depending on how the draw goes. So they're not mugs. The only thing is they suit us because they're an attacking team. They press high up the pitch, so you can catch them out on the counter attack. Wolves won't it be a different, totally different kettle of fish. But it's important that we get it off to a winning start at home, isn't it? Because we've got a very, very difficult game against Spurs in the second match.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I expect us to win the Wolves game and be buzzing and be ready to go to London. And I think the post match interviews from people who have won a game of football will be positive. They've played 8 matches in total pre-season. It's a lot better organised this year than last year when there was signings were made after we lost the first 2 games, if you remember. So we're much better prepared. And I think that when we talk about uh, Mason Mount, he's a 10 high signing. The manager sees something in him, and we have to believe he's made very good signings so far. Universally on social media, people are saying that, and I agree. So hopefully, just he needs a settling in period like everybody else. But he's won the Premier League and he's won the Champions League. I think the guy's good enough, and he'll be leading the line and playing his part in a very strong midfield that we have now. I mean, Ericsson's going to be an impact substitute. Last year he was played far too long and played in games. Remember the cup games where he was playing, he didn't need to play and then got injured, was out for months. He hasn't really regained his full fitness or the start that he had last season. So he'll be in the squad every Saturday and will be coming on. But I don't expect to see him at any stage become a regular in the first team, except perhaps in the League Cup or in minor European games. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the first choice midfield in 90% of the time, barring injury, will be Casemiro, Mount, and Fernandez. And I also am getting the feeling from pre-season that Fernandez is going to play a more deeper role alongside Casemiro, um, the Paul Scholes role, if you like, whereas Mason Mount will get up closer to the front man in more of a number 10 role. Of course, they could switch it about a bit during the course of the season, but for the moment, I see Fernandez playing in a deeper role. And just on that, Fernandez was absolutely magnificent against Lens with those balls he was spraying left and right to Rashford and Garnacho. He was just wonderful to watch, wasn't he?
He was world class in those moments. He seems to have the early vision. The great players make time for themselves, and he seems to see people on both sides of the pitch and releases the ball early, with sometimes curling it cleverly to the outside of the right foot, and it's nearly inch perfect. And look at the way the one to the left of Garnacho, where Garnacho killed it in one move and sold the fullback a pup. That was glorious football to watch when it's as quick as that. Defenders hit genuine pace and class by people on the ball, and Fernandez certainly has that class.
Yeah, there was lots of good play from Fernandez, but there was one ball in particular. I think that might be the one you're talking about, where Fernandez is kind of on the right hand side, and he uses the outside of his right foot to play it a crossfield ball to Garnacho, and it was just out of this world. Um, just talking about it is getting me excited for the Wolves game next Monday. Yeah, so what you make of the goalkeeper so far? He's going to have us on the edge of our seats, isn't he? He's going to be entertaining, but he's going to take an awful lot of risks, isn't he?
He is, but I think he's quality, okay, and I think I love the way he's already talking, maybe roaring at defenders, letting them know that he's the number one, and he can see things from where he can. Well, sometimes they have their back to the play, and he'll help them. They'll just have to come to terms with it's a different type. David De Gea was a lot quieter, more gentle sort of a guy. This guy's more forceful, believes totally in his ability to deliver the ball, both close passes and big passes. Some of the passes he's just hitting long were wonderful to see. I'm excited for that. Shot savers, he was saving stuff in his chest from distance, and he had that flamboyant one near the end when Luke Shaw clapped him. I thought that was more for the television. I don't think it was really that hard to save, but he made it look spectacular.
Yeah, there was one save. I think it was a shot from outside the area which deflected off Martinez, and he had to stretch back
That's
to
the one.
prevent it going in the far corner. And yeah, it might have been one for the cameras, or it was just a good save. Um, you can make your own mind up about that one, but yeah, he made that brilliant save in the Dortmund game from close range, and then he immediately sprinted towards Maguire to give him a ball again, which is um. So we're seeing how great he is with his feet. He's picking out Fernandez and Rashford with some great balls and getting us on the front foot. We're going to see lots of that this season, I think. And he's obviously not afraid to have a go at his defenders, just like Peter Schmeichel used to do. Um, so if he's even 90% or even 80% as good as De Gea at saving shots, and then he's got all the other attributes with the distribution, the commanding of the area, um, and being a leader at the back, then he's bringing just about everything to the table, then, isn't he?
He does. He's got a lot of versatility, and this was referred earlier about the sloppy passing by various players. I think he'll take a hand in that and cutting that out, so they'll know that they have to look back and see exactly where they're putting the ball. Some of our play, it's been a malaise that came through the period of COVID, where there were no fans on the ground and they were just sort of expecting the centre half to be beside them, these fullbacks, and it's just not like that. You have to have concentration for the total 90 minutes. And by the way the season started, you're going to have games going to 97, 98 minutes. So you need to be awake from minute 1 to minute 98 or 99. And I think the goalkeeper will be a major factor with the centre halves. Our first two centre halves are class But the fullbacks need to be kept on their toes because they have a certain weakness that we've identified previously.
Okay, we'll just talk about Ahmad and Palestri for the moment. Now Ahmad got injured halfway through the pre-season tour, and Palestri has ended the tour very, very well. So, in my opinion, Palestri had jumped ahead of Ahmad in the packing order, or at least he should have. And the only reason why I'm doubting that is because Palestri got so few minutes last season when he deserved more. Um, so on Palestri, if I was making a decision, if I could only pick one of those players, it would probably be Palestri. Now I know Ahmad had scored these, magnificent goals for Sunderland, but those goals came in the championship. And from what I didn't see many Sunderland games. What I've been told is that he goes missing in games for long periods, and then you score a goal out of nowhere. Um, and that's the type of player that he is. Whereas Palestri is in games all the time. He's making life difficult for the fullbacks. He's creating chances, and that goal today might have just sealed the deal and made him part of the squad next season. Yeah, I think that might have been the first goal that Palestri has got in a Manchester United shirt. Obviously, it won't go down on the records because it's not a
Yeah,
competitive game.
he,
But
he scored one in the pre-season match last year against Liverpool. It was a lovely interaction between two or three players, and he put it into the same corner as he scored today. So that's the only other goal he scored. But when you were describing Ahmad's impact there, to me, you could have been talking about Anthony. He's the same sort of player, left footed on the right hand side. And the goals I've seen him score for Sunderland, some wonderful, especially with the free kicks. But he has a strong resemblance. There's a sameness there. Whilst Palestre gives you genuine pace and a different option. As I said, if it's not going well for Anthony against Wolves, you've got Palestri 65, 70 minutes to just go straight at the fullback and try to get the ball into the middle. And he'll do. He'll work all day. He's a very fit young man. He's had a good pre-season, as you say, and he deserves his chance. He does not deserve to be sent away on loan.
yeah, so to summarise, Ahmad and Anthony both like to cut inside and score goals from outside the box, whereas Palestri is like an old traditional winger who goes beats the fullback and gets the ball into the middle. And obviously he can get on the end of things as well as he did today. So and he can pick the ball up in his own half and just go at people.
Yeah, yeah.
And
A bit like Canchelsis and Stevie Coppell those years ago. He's in that sort of mold. I haven't seen a right winger at Old Trafford like that for a generation, maybe, but he definitely is one of the style of the old mold. I'm very exciting for fans of a certain age who remember those sort of players.
I said this last season, and maybe at some point this season we might see it. I would love to see a United lineup with Garnacho on the left and Palestri on the right. Do you think at some
Oh,
stage this season we might see that?
that would be a dream. That would be fabulous. And at that stage, the centre forward has established himself and knows that he's going to get good delivery. The guy's 6'3", the centre forward. I expect him to knock a few in if the quality of the ball is good enough. And certainly Ericsson as an impact substitute in a very tight game is good enough to find the centre forward Rasmus to bury a header. So there's other possibilities that are opening up since these new arrivals came in. So it's the potential, Kyle, is very exciting when you think about it.
Yeah, a lot of very exciting young forwards under the age of 25 at the club currently, and you know Rashford's probably the most experienced one. He's 25, but the rest of them are younger and are not the finished article yet and got bags of potential. Um, yeah, I think a lot has been made. I know he's a 20-year-old who had his breakthrough season in Serie A where he got 10 goals in all competitions and a few assists. But at United, they're going to create more chances than Atalanta. He's going to get plenty of opportunities, and I just hope he takes them, and scores early as well. To get the media off his back.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's really good and he really catches fire. He could get 20 goals in all competitions, but even if he only gets 15 in all competitions, that'll be a decent start for him. We have to be patient. He's not Harry Kane. He's not a 30-year-old striker who's
No,
been banging them
no.
in for years. He's a developing player, and we have to give him time. And the fans at Old Trafford will certainly do that, won't they?
No, they will. They definitely will. And he has dribbling skills too for a big man from the clips that I have seen, and the potential's there. And Ten Hag believes in him, and Ten Hag seems to be able to get the best out of people if they play to his system. And if he has the discipline to work hard, and then gets a few early goals, the confidence goes up, and the players believe in him. I mean, Bruno will find him with the great early deliveries, and I believe he's very quick too. So I'm looking forward to the potential of him getting the ball over the top round the keeper and burying them if the ball's good enough. And Casemiro can play a very, very good ball through the inside channels. So there's a lot of potential there too.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of chances created. I feel, especially at Old Trafford, and when United are dominating games. Um, if this season goes well, I can see a situation where they're all contributing. Rashford's getting goals, Hoyland's getting goals, Garnacho, Bruno, Mount. Casemiro from set pieces. I can see, the goals being spread around. Anthony, hopefully as well, will increase on his 8 goals from last season. Um, yeah, so we just want to get off to a good start and then go into a game against Tottenham full of confidence. Because if we could win our first 3 games ahead of the Arsenal away game, that would be perfect. Because we want to be going into a game like that with confidence. We give a good account of ourselves at the Emirates last season, but we came up short against the team that were top of the league at the time. Without Casemiro, he might have made a difference for us. But if we could start well and even go to somewhere like the Emirates and win or get it, it would be a hell of a statement, wouldn't it?
It would, of course. But the very fact that we're sitting here with 8 days to go until the first game, and really the undecided is really the right back. That many years where we in podcast talking about we need four, five, six players, we need a change here and a change there. We're much more confident going into this new season on the basis that the manager has had a look, decided who's up for him and who's not, and is creating his own team in his own mould. And Ajax have a tradition of playing good quality football, and United certainly do. And I think this manager's beginning to buy into that. And if, as you said, if we had a situation where you had Palestri on one wing and Garnacho on the other, attacking fullbacks, how exciting would that be? That would fill the stadium as if it needs to be. But all the away supporters that we come, they're all over the country. You'll see there won't be any vacancies. United fans will be on the road following this team. Let's be positive. I'm thinking positive.
Yeah, I think you could argue that we're only a right back away from Ten Hag having his complete 11. Um, Next summer, I think I've touched on this before. I think he might look at bringing in a right-sided centre back to replace Varane, who, of course, there's nothing wrong with Varane, but his availability, there's an issue there all the time. How many games will he miss again this season? We want a right-sided centre back who's going to play alongside Leach for 38 Premier League games, or at least
Yeah.
35. Um, that could become an issue again. And Wan-Bissaka and Dallo, like we talked about at the start of the show, um, one's very good defensively, and one's well, he's okay going forward. That's it.
Yeah,
There are
yeah, yeah.
deficiencies with both their games. So ideally, I think the manager will want to bring in a right back that can do everything that he wants. So maybe that'll be those will be the two signings I think he'll look at next summer. And maybe want to bring in another striker as well. But things are certainly coming together nicely, and I'm feeling positive as well. And you know, Fred and McTominay weren't involved today. McTominay is injured, we believe, and Fred has not took part in preseason at all. I think he's got one foot out the door. I think it's Galatasaray are favourites at the moment to sign him. And Kobe Menu seems like he's very much part of the manager's plans. Unfortunately, he got injured. Um, but yeah, so Hannibal is made it known to the manager that he's got ability and he wants to be part of the squad. He's done himself no harm. And Ericsson's there. So we know who the three midfielders who are going to start 90% of the games. Um, and then there's Ericsson, Hannibal Mabry. Hopefully Amrabat comes in to deputise for Casemiro, and then
Definitely.
we're looking at having good options then. And Fred McTominay, all of a sudden, they're looking like they've been frozen out, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, they're surplus to requirements. They've certainly had their. They've been both been there a long, long time, and you could get a run from Roy Roy Keane pretty quickly if you even mention the two names. So there's no doubt that they people who know behind the scenes at Old Trafford know that those guys were never up to the required standard. Now they're being featured out, and hopefully they will leave. As we've talked about, because of Menu's injury, that may save McTominay until January. But personally, I wouldn't mind if both of them actually left the club if we could get some decent money for them.
Well, if we're going to bring in Amrabat, I don't see why we can't sell McFred in this window. And United are looking 40 million from West Ham for McTominay. I don't think at any other stage will he be worth that kind of money. If he rots on the bench for the next 12 months, he's not going to be worth 40 million next June. So now is the time
No.
to sell him, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I well, you see, we haven't got the Moroccan yet. That's why I'm not so quick to say about the departure of McTominay. But certainly, if the Moroccan is signed, I think definitely both should go. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a possibility. The rumours are still circulating that West Ham could bid 60 million for Maguire and McTominay. That would be a great deal. I would I would be almost, Christmas come early, really, to be honest.
Would indeed. Manna from heaven for those two guys. Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine that Maguire and a friendly in Dublin's getting moved by United fans. I mean, that just shows that the guy has reached the very pit bottom of standards, and he really has to go. But it's a matter of getting some money for him. He certainly should know that he is nowhere in the picture of the manager's judgment of playing again steadily in the Premier League for Manchester United. It's as clear as a bell.
Yeah, if he was a racehorse, he would have been retired by now, and if he was a boxer, the fight would have been stopped by the referee. He's just, I think, for his own
Yeah, he wouldn't have
sanity.
lasted. He wouldn't last too many rounds in a 12 round fight. Let me tell you, if he's a boxer.
No, eh, for his own sanity, he needs David Moyes or someone to save him from this misery.
Mhm.
It's just every time he starts now, he makes a mistake that leads to a goal, and it's just. He's just like we talked about off air. He's just shot to pieces, and like you say, United fans are getting on his back now, and I don't see any way back for him at all. The manager has stripped him of the captaincy. He's fifth choice centre back. I don't see. He keeps his PR team keep briefing that he wants to fight for his place. He doesn't have a place. The manager is clearly trying to force him out. I mean, even today, when Bruno wasn't even in Dublin, Tom Heaton was the captain. I mean, what does that say?
I noticed that was a big message to him. Yeah, and he's actually isn't he 30 now? You were referring earlier to the manager built in a team about around 25-year-olds, and that's sort of built in the potential for his first great team. Maguire is past tense. Kyle, he's yesterday's man, and he has to go.
Yeah, as soon as possible for all parties. Uh, Both for the club and for himself. He needs to be moved on. So Johnny Evans come on after 64 minutes. It's a kind of divided opinion. A lot of fans are kind of like they don't mind him getting, you know, minutes in pre-season with the club and putting himself in the shot window. And other fans who were disappointed to see him go in 2015 would be quite happy to see him get a 1 year contract. What are your thoughts on it then, Nigel?
No, I wasn't sorry to see him leave in 2015, and I certainly don't want him appearing here for another year. I mean, if you have to name your squads, don't you, for Premier League in Europe? And I don't want him holding somebody else back that could be the future of the club. He's 35 years old, and I think started maybe 3 games last season for Leicester. That shows you where his fitness levels are at. I just don't think he should be in the picture at all. I can see why he's been used at the moment, but he hasn't yet been given that 1 year contract, and I personally wouldn't give it to him. But that's just my judgment, you know.
I would if I would only give it to him. as as a way to force Maguire out. If Maguire's still not getting the message after all the hints he's been given by Ten Hag, if we have to give Johnny a 1 year deal for Maguire to be pushed down to sixth choice and finally get the message, then I'd be on board with that. But from a serious point of view, watching him in pre-season has concerned me. He looks well off it. Even today, Nico Williams, the Spanish winger, skint him.
He did. Mm.
And he committed himself when he got nowhere near him.
Yeah,
Yeah, he looks like an old guy playing with young guys, doesn't he?
he does. And I had a quiet wee bet with myself that he'd get a yellow card, and he'd right enough, he got it
Did
pretty
yeah.
quickly.
It was quite a feisty game for a friendly, wasn't
Oh,
it?
it was. Oh, yeah. I was just afraid of somebody getting hurt there because they were flying and really were. And I mean, people like Palestri and Hannibal at the latter stage were beating them too easily, and they didn't like it. No big defender who's played a lot of games for one club, which their back four has apparently, likes to be cleaned by young, quick wingers, and they were physically getting stuck in, and you don't like that in the last game before the season formally starts. Your players maybe getting injured. Mainu's injury was a complete fluke. And Ahmad, I don't know what really happened there, but that's the example of how quickly things can change in your first team squad.
Yeah, when you're trying to make your career, an injury, when you get an injury in pre-season, when you're trying to impress the manager, it comes at the worst possible time, and then someone else can come in and take your place, like with Ahmad and Palestri. Um, if it had it been an established first teamer who got injured and out for 2 months, it wouldn't have mattered because once he's fit again, he comes straight back into the team.
Yeah,
Whereas Ahmad might lose his United career now off the back of that. So it can be a cruel sport at
I
times,
know.
can't it?
It can very much so. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so we haven't signed that Japanese goalkeeper, and that might not happen in this window. So would you be quite happy with Tom Heaton being the backup goalkeeper for the duration of the season?
Yeah, I would. I think he's a top professional. I think he loves the club, and I think he'll he seems to get on with everybody behind the scenes. I know that Luton inquired about him, and there was a possibility that if United had got the second keeper, the Japanese keeper, that would have been his way out. He wants to play football, but I think he's well placed to be a good number two to Odana.
Well, he was promised to be number two under Ollie, and because they didn't manage to sell De Gea or Henderson, then he was down to number three, and that promise wasn't kept. So now he might finally be number two, and I think he'll possibly be happy with that. He'll if he was third choice, he'd want to go to Luton, but I think being number two, he might be satisfied with that at this stage of his career. Um, Henderson's still not left the club. It's, Now, Nottingham Forest have been linked with another goalkeeper. That would be a concern to me, because Spurs signed a goalkeeper already. If he doesn't go to Forest, I don't see where he's going to go, and then he's just going to be stuck there. Then he doesn't want to be there. He's on enormous wages, and he's not going to be first choice. So if Forest signs somebody else, it's going to be a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Oh, it is that we haven't been good with goalkeepers, as you've already talked about over the last 4 or 5 years. It's been a complete mess there, and it needs to be sorted out as quick. Those are huge wages that Henderson's on, but he was promised a number one job, and I mean, you talked about Ollie and promises before. It's a legacy of that time at the club, and it needs to be sorted out quickly. But if he doesn't go to Forest, I agree with you. I can't see where he's going to go. He'll be still there trying to find somewhere in January when he's back to full fitness.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anyone any favors. This situation. Um, I think what has happened is that Forest, like, they paid the 15 million for Alanga, but they wanted to take Henderson on loan. I think they were really chancing their arm there. United are not interested in loaning him again. They want a fee for this player now. Um, Forest clearly have curtailed their spending from last summer.
Yeah.
Maybe towards the end of the window, the clubs will come to an arrangement. There is a possibility now that he could be loaned with an obligation to buy. But in that circumstance, United they want to be paid by January, because they want to get the money in, um, into their bank account. Whereas Forest don't want to pay the money to next summer. So I think that's what the discussion and the negotiations are about at the moment.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Something may happen before the end of August, I suppose. We'll just have to watch that one, you know. What about Malasse, the left back? What's the extent of his injury? Have you, I haven't really seen come across what the details are with that.
Yeah, he seemed to get injured at the start of the preseason, and then we never seen him at all. But like Anthony Martial, which is not come as too much of a surprise to any of the
No,
fans.
no,
Um, Another player we're probably going to be stuck with for another 12 months, but that will definitely be the end of it. There's no way that Ten Hag will allow him to get another contract. Now, in the days of Solskjaer and Ed Woodward, definitely he would have got a new deal. In fact, Ed Woodward overruled Mourinho on Martial. In fact, we talked about this the other day. I think Mourinho was absolutely right about Pogba and Martial, and the club didn't listen, and now we're still stuck with Martial.
that's right. And obviously he's not involved on Monday week. It's just the usual. When will he be fit? Can he even come on for 20 minutes? I think Ten Hag's had that. He's not going to fall for that again this season. You can see in games when he did play, Ten Hag was getting more and more frustrated because he did link up well in the preseason tour last year, and we had hopes for uh, Martial and Sancho, for example. It never happened because Martial was never there to fulfill that positive move on the tour. So I think Ten Hag has had it with him, but he appreciates that if he went on loan and he wasn't signed up to the team, he went on loan. He didn't play well there either. That he's going to be hard to dispose of. But wouldn't it be difficult if he's part of the 25 for the whole season and doesn't play much and holds somebody else back? I don't like that aspect of it, you know.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'd rather have Joe Hugel as part of the squad. Um, I mean, he doesn't fit into Ten Hag's philosophy at all, because like Rasmus Højlund, for example, is going to chase down the goalkeeper. He's going to press high and win the ball high up the pitch. He's very energetic. He dribbles past players. He gets into the 6 yard box for top ins. Martial doesn't really do any of that. He's just a very lethargic player, as we all know. Um, just very, very one paced, and doesn't want to do any work without the ball. So he doesn't really fit in at all. Now, just throwing this out here, and I heard it being discussed on another podcast. Now, we didn't get to see this scenario over the course of the weekend, but I would have liked to have seen it in one of these friendlies the strongest possible 10 with Joe Hugel as the number 9, but with 10 first teamers playing with him to see how he would get on. That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would, yeah. But in a club like United, there's lots of good players over my lifetime, Kyle, that really deserved a chance and the opportunity didn't come up and they moved on. So it's hard to get it right at all the time, but the potential of that would have been very, very nice. He's been at the club quite a while, and it would have been nice to see if he could have had a chance, but just didn't happen. And I'm sorry that it didn't happen. You know, he just got a notional sort of a game today, but there was no delivery to him. He didn't really have any chances, did he?
I know it feels like a long time ago now, but his goal in the first preseason game against Leeds, he took that very well, didn't he?
Oh, he did. Yeah, that was very positive. Yeah, he was very calm and yeah, good goal. I thought. Yeah,
He's a Geordie, I think. We've had a few of those over the years, haven't we? So
we have. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he would
Always love
be
the Geordies.
the latest one if he makes it. But we'll have to wait and see in that one. For the moment, the manager has to, in the absence of Hoyland, he the manager has decided to use Rashford in that number 10 or in that number 9 position. Um, and that's great news for Garnacho because both of them can't play on the left. So um, if this starts off really well, this front three, it might be hard for Ireland to get into the team. But you want the manager to have headaches like that. Those are good problems to have as a manager, aren't they?
Oh, it's competition for places. You nearly have two for every one now. You have your odd area where there may be an age differential that, as you've mentioned, Varane, for example. I mean, I can't imagine him staying at Manchester City and only playing 28 out of 38 games. I can't see Pep ever allowing a thing like that. But we have struggled to get such a good centre half We need him there at the moment with a view to after maybe another year, somebody else will be signed to fill that role. Certainly, the fans love him. He speaks very well, articulate guy who gets the importance of the club and the importance of the club being in European competition for somebody who's played so well in Spain and at the international level for France. So yeah, it's getting the bench to be able to bring some sort of input late in the game when we need a game changer. That's the sort of area that needs strengthened. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Varane is an absolute winner. He's been there and done it all and bought the T-shirt. And he's bringing him and Casemiro bringing that experience to Old Trafford and hopefully help these young players in particular to get over the line in terms of winning the big trophies at Old Trafford. So, but in terms of them two, it's probably going to, if we're going to win the Premier League or the Champions League, uh, it's going to have to be now or never in terms of Casemiro and Varane, because they haven't got that long left. So I would love to see them do it in a red shirt as well. Um, but you could possibly, if Man City are going to be dominant again in the Premier League, let's wait and see. They've let go of a number of players, Man City, and might let go of a few more. They might not have, and depending on who they bring in, they might not be as strong squad wise this season. Um, there might be more of an opportunity for us to win the Champions League and the Premier League because the cup competition is obviously, the best team on paper doesn't always win the cup competition, whereas the best team on paper always wins the league competition. So arguably we might have a better chance of winning the Champions League because the the hardest team we'll have to face it probably is Manchester City, and in a one-off game you never know what could happen. So do you think maybe we have a better chance of winning the Champions League than the Premier League this season?
Yeah, I think you've assessed that properly. Yeah, absolutely. The fact that we won the League Cup and then lost in the final of the FA Cup. I mean, cup competition, especially with our home record, is getting better, and we want it at that level in the Champions League. So if you can get the lead sufficiently at a decent level before you go to the away leg, for example, or you keep it down to a reasonable score away, and then you're confident that you can win European games at Old Trafford in front of huge crowds, and the goals are starting, the confidence is coming back. I definitely think the Champions League is the option that we should look for. Yeah.
Yeah, so this season I want to see us obviously get closer to Manchester City, but finish second or first if things go really well. But I'm not going to get carried away for the moment. And obviously want to see us do well again in the League Cup and the FA Cup. Hopefully win the FA Cup this time, and then at least get to the Champions League quarterfinals or semi-finals. For me, that would be a good season.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd be really really happy about that. And all competitions, winning the games at home, getting that home record back, where teams across Europe are afraid to come to Old Trafford because we're starting to win games. And we need to win games well because we didn't have a goal scorer last season. As you often said, there's all this positivity, attacking, but no return. And not winning games we should win because we don't score goals, and that's really why the option was always this season to get a centre forward. We've now got him, and let's see what happens. But I feel confident this guy can produce the goods, but he needs time. People just can't expect it all to happen before Christmas. It's a 38 game season. Let's see what his tally is at the end of the season.
I mean, yeah, this season I want to see us win games at Old Trafford by 4 or 5 nil. We've struggled to do that in recent years, particularly last season. Like we were winning by the odd goal in most games, and even when we won convincingly, it was only 3-0. Really, I want to see us really hammer teams this season. Um, when we're playing against teams in the bottom half at Old Trafford, we really should be winning. A lot of those games by 4 or 5 or 6. The same way that Manchester City do. They just blow teams away when they're significantly better than them. We want to see Manchester United do that. That's what we did in the past when we were playing against teams that we were a lot better than, and we've struggled to score goals last season, but this this season I have a feeling it's going to be different. So I am feeling just as positive as you are. Um, and on that note, we will wrap up the podcast there. Please, everybody, subscribe to the podcast. Give us a like on the video on YouTube. And and get some of your comments in down below, and I will try and reply to as many of those as possible. So, been a pleasure to have you on again, Nigel. I'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye.